Okay, this is part 2. I'm just going to go back up here really quickly because I forgot to mention it. When you're ready to answer the question for the vocabulary terms, make sure your text box right here is highlighted in pink. Just tap on it. Remember, you can drag that text box, make it fit. Okay, levels of questions. So we did an assignment for levels of questioning. Level 1 is when you look at a story and you pull a question that can be answered by pointing it out in the text. Actually, I'm going to take you here too. Whoops, not you. We're going to click on Miss Robertson's Bitmoji. Okay, so level 1 means that we read on the line for recall questions. When I ask you a question, if you can physically point to the answer in the text, that's a level 1 question. Being able to physically find it in the story. So these are questions like who, what, where, when. So some examples from chapter 1. Where's the Chesapeake Bay region? Well, I could point it out in the story and say, here it is. Chesapeake Bay region is the modern state of Virginia, Maryland, and Delaware. Or what did the National Park Service begin at Jamestown in the 1940s and 50s? The National Park Service began formal archaeological excavations. I'm going to go back to written in bone. Another recall question can go over here to up on a pedestal. So in situ, your question might be, what does in situ mean? Well, I can find it here in the text and tell you it means in the exact position and place where an object is first found. Or I might say, what is epiphysis? Well, epiphysis is the bony caps located at the ends of long bones. You could say, what does epiphysis or you might say, when does the epiphysis join to the shaft of a long bone? Until about age 14, or at age 14. So again, we go back here, level 1, who, what, where, when. I can physically point to the answer. So when you have, your question, you're going to add a text box right here. And you're going to type it out. Now, not only are you finding the question, you're also giving me the answer. So you need to answer your own question. Level 2, let's look at level 2 questions again. Level 2 means that you are reading between the lines for interpretive questions. You're having to use your context clues to figure out the answers. We have to make an inference or an assumption. So your questions will probably start with how or why. For example, from chapter 1, why was James Fort no longer mentioned in historical records after the 1630s? A lot of you came up with the idea that James Fort had to be, the actual wall had to be dismantled because James Fort was growing so much it needed room. So it was taken apart, and that was how Jamestown came to be. So a level 2 question, remember, it starts with how or why, might be, why do forensic anthropologists pedestal a skeleton? And then you would need to tell me the answer. Or you might say, how did forensic anthropologists determine JR 1225B's ancestry based off of his skull? And then level 3. Level 3 questions are the most advanced questions. This is when we read a story and we try to apply it to our own life. So we try to move beyond the story and make it applicable to the real world, to yourself or to other people. So your question is going to be kind of a so what question. For example, how does the past influence the present? How would you feel if many years into the future your grave was excavated for research purposes? Why? You might ask a question of, for a level 3, you might ask, forensic anthropology is intriguing, but why should it be important to everyone? So you've got to try to connect the text back to your life, okay? And again, whenever you ask a question, you need to provide the answer. So our next section is vocabulary. We're going to study these 4 types of context clues. We went over this last week. The definition. Sometimes we are given a vocabulary word and the definition is put in the same sentence. The arbitrator, the neutral person chosen to settle the dispute, arrived at her decision. You can see that the definition for arbitrator is right beside it. A synonym is a word that means the same. So the slender woman was so thin her clothes were too big on her. Slender is another word for thin. An antonym is the opposite. An inference is when we are not told the meaning directly, but we have to use clues to piece it together. Ethan's pugnacious behavior made his opponent back down. Well, if your opponent is backing down your foe, then that tells me something about what your behavior is like. It must be fierce and ferocious and aggressive. So, the directions. You need to use context clues and appositives to help you identify the definitions of these words as they're used in the text. Try not to use an outside source, so try not to go to dictionary.com. And to help you, you have page numbers where you can find the word. So, for in situ, you're looking at page 25. For pedestal, you're looking at page 25. And for shrouded, you're still on page 25. Look at these words and you need to try to tell me what they mean. What's the definition? And you have 3 more. Epiphysis, page 28. Molars, page 29. Ancestry, page 32. Again, try not to use a dictionary. Go to these pages in the text and see what they mean. Put it in your own words. Whew, guys, you are finished. This is a lengthy document, but if you read chapter 2, then you'll remember a lot of the information that goes into these questions. If you have any trouble finding something, understanding what I'm looking for, or even how to use a text box, all you need to do is send me a message on Schoology. I'm happy to help you. When you are done with this, then you need to come up here and click the Turn In button and it will send it to me. Good luck. Let me know if I can help.